where they do one bad thing, therefore everything they say is bad. That's not the case. But it's a fact that Nietzsche went mad. There seems to be a lot of conjecture based on what I've found about why he went mad, whether it was an organic illness, which I think is probably based on my medical understanding. I would go for the organic hypothesis that it was a biological thing that had very little to do with his actual mental processes, or was it, based on just the fact that he was a little nuts? It's a fact that he had debilitating migraines throughout his life. And the scene from Pi comes to mind where the lead character drills into his skull with a drill to get the ultimate number out of his mind. And basically gives himself a lobotomy. So Nietzsche's madness is kind of like that, I suppose. He had a very sad life. He, never was really too successful with women. He had a very serious heartbreak from a woman named Lady Salome, who, I don't know if that's right, Salome I think was her name. And he and her and some other guy jaunt around Europe, and then their threesome or whatever it was became a twosome with Nietzsche not included. So he had a tough life. And I mean, you look at his life and you realize, part of what fueled his philosophy was trying to create a philosophy that would be life-affirming, that would, kind of take him out of his misery. He had syphilis too, by the way. My favorite quote from Nietzsche, which is not really a quote from him, but it's a recapitulated quote from, I believe, another source, probably a Christian source, I don't know, or Stoic. It's Stoic. Amor fati, which means the love of fate, which basically means anything that happens to me, I'm going to use it for my betterment, so nothing can hurt me. That I will find the good, I will find however these things are going to, whatever happens, I'm going to use it for good. And I've thought about, even if I were to ever get a tattoo, which I probably wouldn't, that's what I would do. Amor fati. So I'm kind of rambling on, but I think it's necessary to kind of get an idea of where Nietzsche's coming from. I probably talked about this in a few other videos, but in some respects, all of this madness and biology aside, and the migraines and what have you, I think there was an aspect of Nietzsche that voluntarily took himself out of society. And one has to ask, would he have been happier had he taken a more reserved approach to his own philosophy? If he had been, a little less extreme. And I suppose I look at my own life, and I have a very public job, and I don't think that my goal is really to take myself out of society. I like people. I like having friends and family and what have you. But I do like the idea of following my own goals, following my own values. But it's a lie to myself to think that somehow I'm going to create these things on my own and not be influenced. Going back to the Gulliver's Travels reference, and Gulliver being tied down by all these Lilliputian small people, it's almost like a fight against determinism, the idea that outside factors affect you and ultimately determine your life without your choice. Determinism is a profoundly disturbing problem for many people once they really understand its full implications. And I've struggled with it for a number of years. I'd say at least 6 or 7 years. It's been a struggle for me. Sometimes worse than others. But to take a page from Eastern philosophy, which did affect Nietzsche, by the way. Part of what Eastern philosophy entails is seeing yourself as a part of the undisturbed whole, of the seamless whole. So rather than seeing yourself as being outside of the world, you see yourself as an active part of it, that there's really less separation than you think, or no separation at all between you and the outside world. It's kind of a paradoxical philosophy, if you will. So for one to truly believe that he can be his own man, that he can be an Übermensch, perhaps this is a fanciful idea that's not really attainable or even desirable to be an Übermensch. So I suppose that's where my thoughts have been lately. I hope that I will finish the Spoke Zarathustra and not be a flaky mess like I usually am when I get to reading books and read 50 or 60 pages and then put it down and read it in its entirety a year later. I'd be interested in any person's thoughts about Nietzsche. One thing I hate is when I do a philosophy video like this and I have somebody a year on down the road after I've made this video comment on how stupid I am or how I misunderstand a certain person's philosophy. If you're that kind of person, chill out, okay? I mean, we're just having a discussion here. And it's all in good fun, you know. I'm not spouting off my beliefs like I'm teaching a philosophy class. I'm just more of an amateur philosopher saying, look, here's where I am at this point. Does anybody else have any other ideas? I welcome correction. So I definitely wanted to clarify that, because these days I view myself as more of one who likes to discuss things rather than debate them. I'm not trying to convince anyone of my views because I really don't care. The reason why I do this is selfish in a way, because rather than convincing others to my viewpoint, I think part of why I do this is to listen to what others might have to say, and then for me to be able to grow from learning what they have to say that might be completely contradictory to my viewpoint. So I hope, at least even if I haven't, I think it's a good thing to aspire to, for me to master my ego enough to be able to accept help and learn from others who either have a contradictory viewpoint to my own, or simply know more than I do and can tell me something that I didn't know before. The thing I love about having discussions with Ben is it'll be like I'm on a train track, like I'm just going in one direction, and I'll use a certain wording and vocabulary in how I describe the problem. Then I talk to Ben and I'm like, I have this problem. How do what are your thoughts? And it's almost like, rather than being on a train track, suddenly we're flying on a different planet that I never knew existed, in a good way, because he frames the problem in a completely different way for me, and at least to me, in a kind way, shows me how, perhaps some of my problems, philosophical problems, aren't as great in magnitude as I think they are. So I have to thank him for that. But hopefully someone has gotten something from all this rambling. This is kind of how I do these videos, rather than just a straight to the point and click and stop, and then have myself in a different pose and say a different, something else off the script. I'm just not good at that. So long videos, but